Welcome to How to Yoga. Today we're going to talk about chanting in a contemporary yogic sense and setting. So, stay tuned. So why do we chant in the first place? Chanting is cool because it's like the one unifying spiritual practice. Chanting goes back to every culture, every religion, as far back as human history goes. If you could imagine that, obviously yogis aren't the only ones who chant. We see it in modern day spiritual practices, but you could just imagine primitive man around the fire at night, the stars overhead, nothing left to do, nothing left to hunt, nothing left to gather. You hear that drum beat going, you start dancing, you start chanting. It's a way of communion, of transcendence. It connects community as well. So in the yogic setting, chanting can show up in a lot of different ways. There can be a religious version of it that is sometimes in Vedic or Hindu versions. There's also the chanting that is in more esoteric teachings like Tantra, where there's very specific aspects of it. I want to talk about just kind of the middle of the road contemporary chanting, something that you might find if you're a fan of Krishna Das or at your local yoga studio, you've got Kirtan going on or something like that. We'll get into all what that is. But let's talk about mantra first and foremost. Mantra is a cognate between the word manas and tra, which is protector or technique of the mind. Manas is mind, tra is protector or technique. So mantra is really a way of keeping the egoic mind or the situationally aware aspect of the mind focused on a specific object. So in essence, mantra is a really accessible, low entry version of meditation. Sanskrit specifically is unique to yoga chanting practice because the vibration is the thing. So it's not a concept, it's not a cognized idea of the object that we're calling in reference to, as we are with you use English. In Sanskrit, when we're saying the word, the vibration are actually in attunement to the thing so much that it becomes the thing. It is the thing. It invokes the thing. There's many ways of thinking about it. There's not really just one way to think about it. But mantra is, in a contemporary yoga sense, germane to Sanskrit because it's invoking, it's connecting with, it's resonating to the very essence of what the thing is. The next concept in contemporary yoga chanting that you may have heard that is kind of like the umbrella concept is Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti means devotion. And a bhakta, someone who practices bhakti, isn't just somebody who chants. There's a whole variety of practices that a bhakta will undergo. The bhakti, their whole currency is love and devotion. So a bhakta is someone who practices these 9 different types of yoga. And we're going to talk about 2 techniques specifically that have to do with chanting. I think bhakti is an important concept in modern day yoga because a lot of times when we get into public classes and we're focused on hatha yoga practices, it's really easy to get carried away with technique, also elitism, bypass, all these kinds of pitfalls that modern day public contemporary yoga can attribute to our spiritual lives. Bhakti is a nice antidote, or maybe a better word is counterbalance to that, because a lot of times I think of bhakti as the yoga of emotions. It allows us to get into that truth of vulnerability within us, that oftentimes the feel-good hormones that come up, the oxytocin, the serotonin, dopamine, endorphins that get released from an asana practice, it's very easy to use that stuff to kind of bypass the way in which we should practice karma yoga off the mat and become more spiritually active in our communities, in our worlds. It's also a way to spiritually bypass our relationships. And Bhakti Yoga kind of puts relationships at the forefront. This idea of devotion, yoga of emotion, love as kind of the currency. This is putting us into relationship with the divine in a way where we're confronted with the truth of that relationship, the conversation of where we're at with it in the current state of where we're at right now.
Somebody get a bath.
It's first, yeah.
So the way that chanting in Bhakti kind of works is, if you think of love as the currency of this concept of being a devoted yogi, well, the other side of the coin to that is longing. So there's always this give and take, and if you really want to get into kind of the historical tradition of Bhakti Yoga, you could read some great poets, Rumi, Hafiz, Mirabai. Even though some of these weren't yogis, they're yoga, but the Bhakti poets, the mystic poets of the medieval era and a little bit beyond, that's a great way to get the kind of flavor and the tone of what it means to be in this relationship with something greater than yourself. And I'm going to use the word divine, but you can think of, when I use the word divine, you can think of God, universe, spirit, other than, greater than, whatever you like. But the idea is that you're in a relationship of deep love, and on the other side of love is always longing. And you look at these poems, and the deep nature of these poems is there's always a great sense of longing, because the love that they experienced in this communion with divine was so rich, deep, profound, and vast that it has kind of left their normal world so shattered that all they want to do is be devoted to working back to that state of communion, of being in bhakti with the divine. So this give-take currency of love and longing, it shows up in the practice notably with two words. First of all, it's bhavana. Bhavana is a word that is ironically one of the most repeated words in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, even though some might say that's not a bhakti book, and it's not on its surface, but you can make the argument that it's got some strong bhakti elements. That's a video maybe for another day. But bhavana means mood. It's essentially what we're cultivating. It's the essence or atmosphere of the quality of mind that we're holding. So when we chant, the idea is to drum up or stir up a resonance, a really rich, fragrant essence or mood of emotion. That's what we're offering. That's the devotional part of it, is trying to be in contact with divine in a way that you're not necessarily asking for anything, you're not praying, but you're actually offering. You're surrendering and offering to it. And that's bhavana. Sometimes you'll hear the word bhav, but that oftentimes will refer to like something of a good nature, even though in the Bhakti tradition, the Bhakti tradition that comes out of the Bhagavata Purana, you'll see that there are about different bhavanas, and the beauty of that is that none of them are wrong, that you can show up to your chanting practice, you can show up as a bhakta any way that is true and it is welcome. It is always going to be something, as long as there's an emotional charge to it, that is going to be a valid offering. So that's the push, that's the one side of the coin. The other aspect of it is rasa, and rasa means flavor, which is just kind of the generic definition, but rasa is the way in which, after you've kind of done the work, after you've done the practice, that's the space that you remain in afterwards. And again, there's a litany of rasas, and we're not going to go into that here. The rasas are pretty good. What we get back from that communion with divine energy, the nature of the rasa is somewhat rewarding. It's somewhat compelling for us to keep doing our practice. It may not always fulfill this deep longing that we have as bhaktas, but the rasa lets us know that the offering was appreciated, the offering was received, and that there was no effort wasted in our practice.
He's like, I
Did
can't
you
get...
just get it back?
Oh.
Yes.
So I want to talk about two different styles of chanting in the Bhakti tradition. You've got Japa and Kirtana, or sometimes called Kirtan. We'll start with Japa. Japa is, the word itself means muttering or to mutter, and this is when you see somebody with the mala beads and they've got, it's private practice generally speaking. They've got usually an Ishta mantra, that means a kind of a personalized, supercharged mantra for themselves. And you'll take your beads, and there's a certain way that you do it, and you chant through the beads with the mantra. The beads are 108 rounds, as you probably know. But japa is not about how well the recitation, the meter, the melody, none of that matters. It all has to do with just letting the object of the mantra be muttered in a way where it's kind of bringing the cognitive part of the mind into a trance-like state, so that the deeper aspects of the mind, the limbic brain, and this is my interpretation here, can get deeper into that emotional response, can get deeper into that bhavana, so that the offering becomes richer, more sincere. And ultimately, when we can offer up a richer bhav, or bhavana, then the ensuing response, the rasa that we get afterwards, is going to be that much more, I would say, in relationship with the fruit of the practice. As one of my teachers, Manorma, said once, all this chanting you do, it's like making a soup, and I'm paraphrasing here, and she says it better than this. But you don't want to make the soup and then not taste the soup, and that's the moment after the chanting. And so just one round is enough in the morning, and you can do simple chants. If you look out into the World Wide Web of chants, there's a whole host of chants you could teach yourself. You could also go learn from a Norma. You can learn from another qualified yoga teacher around you. There's ones that are considered open chants. There are chants that are considered need to be taught by a teacher. I'm kind of from the Krishna Das school of things. I think that anything that resonates with you, that cultivates bhavana, I don't see any harm with as far as japa and as far as your own spiritual practice. But say you choose Rama, the word Rama. You can chant Rama 108 times in under 3 minutes. This is a great way to kind of introduce yourself into a japa, bhakti, yoga practice, maybe committing to 30 days of this or something.
He said, you can't touch me, I'm too clean.
Okay, Kirtan. So, Kirtan means, in Sanskrit, one of the translations is narrative. But what we see Kirtan displayed as is usually a band of people or a person with like a harmonium, but there's melody, there's harmony, there's rhythm, there's beat to it. So it's taking a mantra, it's putting it to music, and it's chanting either call and response or in unison with the Kirtan leader. And this is really popular in yoga studios. You'll see on Spotify, you can find Kirtan playlists. You can go look up Krishna Das. I encourage you to just put this stuff on when you're driving. This can definitely be something that develops bhav in your daily life. This can be kind of a slanted version of bringing bhakti into the karma yoga, your yoga off the mat, of simply, not just always having to go to a kirtan or taking dedicated time out of your day to sit down and chant with your harmonium, but putting it on in the car, putting it on while you work, taking little breaks while you're cooking at home. This is a great way to keep the bhakti working through your day. However, I think it is important also to share kirtan in community. I think that there's something special about showing up, having to share your voice, allowing the sincerity of the moment to be honored and recognized, and the imperfection of all of that to be blessed in community. And there's something about being accountable too, with the way in which the voice has to join the choir, and you're learning a chant in a different language that may feel uncomfortable to you, and you are risking sounding like a fool. Who cares? None of that matters. It's not about performativeness. It's not about the artist's ego. It's not about the audience relationship with it. In Kirtan, it's a different kind of yoga performance, and one that can feel sometimes for people like church, which can definitely put some people off of Bhakti Yoga. But I want to encourage you all to give it a fresh go, kind of shake the Etch-a-Sketch clean, whether you're a closeted shower singer and scared to sing in public, you're a person who is way scared of the woo-woo of yoga and thinking about feeling your emotions with yoga seems completely wild to you, or the person who maybe has some of those old religious wounds and reclaiming some of that relationship with something greater than yourself, whatever you want to relate to it as now. But reinvigorating that conversation through Kirtan, through Japa, is a really powerful way to use this yoga of emotions in a way that I think really supplements and fills out our yoga practice otherwise.
Walk it off, Mabel.
All right, let's keep going. Come on.
Oh gosh, she's gonna get stuck.
Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion, the yoga of emotions, the yoga for lovers, especially desperate lovers, is the yoga that gets us in touch with the concept of the personal aspect of the divine. There's several ways we can do this through the Bhakti practice. The two most probably well known in the Western contemporary yoga scene are Japa, mantra, or Kirtan. And I wanted to say one more thing about Kirtan. And this is my own interpretation, but the definition of Kirtan as narrative, I tend to think of the melody and the rhythm being the narrative. There's something about how music opens up our brain to feel in a way that Japa sometimes doesn't always get me there. I think that it's great to supplement both practices, but for those of you who are watching this video, if you've made it this far, I encourage you, go try a Kirtan, go see how that feels, and then go try on some Japa practice, see how that feels, and know that not one is better than the other. They both kind of do two different things. They both have a different way of accessing emotion and cultivating that essence of Bhavana in a way that's probably going to give you different rasa. And obviously rasa is not the goal. That might be the short-term reward for the practice. But the goal is to get back into relationship, back into conversation with this landscape of our spiritual identity. Whatever that might mean for you, the cool thing is that contemporary Bhakti Yoga doesn't necessarily say it has to be about this chant or this god or that goddess, or you even have to necessarily believe in God. And that's a challenging thought when you're chanting the name of a deity. But I think that there's a place for all of it. Let me know what you think. Love to hear. Drop something in the comment and make sure that you keep following us, liking these videos, and we appreciate you so much for watching. Thanks a lot.